want to get a startup off the ground, you need a great team. And over time, you will need a lot more team members because of the additional tasks that you have to do. But is this really correct? Our first speaker says no. Actually, she will show you how you can grow without hiring new team members. She is the co-founder and CEO of Zealy. They offer CMOs as services. Let's welcome here on stage with a big applause, Sandra Kobel.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm super happy and excited to be here this afternoon to talk to you about how to grow your company without hiring. But before we jump right into the topic, I quickly want to talk a little bit about growth, or growth in general. So 4 years ago, at Startup Nights, I was walking around with not more than an idea on a paper. 4 years later, I'm now standing here talking to you about how to grow a company. So let me show you a little bit first, like how the market is changing, what society changes are as influencers for the hiring world, and also how this affects your company. Then we will look at how you can adapt as entrepreneurs to those changes, and then look at some real-life examples. So when we look a little bit into the future, like 6 years into the future, in 2030, up to 30% of jobs could be automated, like usually or mostly due to AI, software, all that. This is very scary on like one hand. That means like 3 out of 10 might not have a job anymore. This is also very disruptive for our ecosystem and the whole economy. At the Swiss Economic Forum this year, I met Zach Kass. He was the former head of go-to-market at OpenAI, and he was also talking about how the economy is shifting and how innovation is affecting the world of hiring and growing as a company. And he clearly said the future of companies is not to hire. So, but then why and how can we then as companies and entrepreneurs, we can't do everything by ourselves, right? So who is doing the stuff for us then? The workplace trends in this year and also the coming year is clearly, I think AI hit us all very hard, and it was fast. I mean, we saw it coming, but most of us didn't expect this full impact or how hard it will hit us. So this is really something that's a huge trend, and also can be a chance, but it's also a threat at the other hand. A lot of companies are already testing 4-day work weeks, and looking at the results, it's actually very stunning. So there is not a significant drop of efficiency or output. So this also is a huge change we are facing now. I think especially after COVID, not everybody is so willing to put everything into work and work 24/7 anymore. Then we are more hiring for skills again than for degrees. There is multi-generational needs in most companies. So from let's say the boomers to the Gen Alpha, it's a huge difference of needs and expectations to the future. Also, of course, sustainability is influencing everything we're doing. Also, of course, how we travel to work, how we work, where we work, and with what tools we are working. And then, of course, the growing gig economy. I think companies like Fiverr are fuel to those trends there. So it's more project-based work and less employment. This is also something about employment. We are now looking at a Gen Alpha that's teenagers right now. They're about to enter the work market in the next 1-2 years, and only 13% of them is actually willing to take on what we consider a normal job. So how can we then do our work and how can we get our tasks done and also, of course, like develop the company further. The Gen Z and Alpha in the workplace surrounding. So I'm speaking here to, like, I can't really see you, it's very dark, but I think like some of you are older, like or like longer in the work environment already. Some of you are super young and students and like entering the work market now. So we have like, from the younger generation, they come with a really entrepreneurial mindset already. This also ends up like in having side hustles, like trying to build their own business from early on. This is great, and I think it should also be supported, but it's also a challenge on how to run regular jobs then. They are looking for meaningful work, so they really want to make an impact, and this combined with a high expectation to diversity and inclusion. Then everybody at the moment, and I think this is not only Gen Z and Alpha, is challenging the status quo. So we all know in order to keep up with the changes happening in the world right now, we have to do stuff different than how we did it before. So this combined and all what we are facing as workforce challenges is like pressure to adapt very fast. High turnover due to shorter jobs, like people don't stay in companies for 5 or 10 or 15 years anymore. There are huge generational differences, high hiring costs, and also a need for diversifying and development very fast. So then, the business environment is changing, but are you too? Or are you still trying to solve the challenges we have right now with concepts from 10 years ago? So what does that mean for us as entrepreneurs? How can we adapt, or what happens if we are not adapting and we fall behind? So there will be a skill gap. So we are not really equipped with the skills and the workforce power we should have to run a successful company. It could be very difficult for us to attract talent when we are not adapting to the current status quo. We will have increased overhead costs and reduced agility. So being flexible and answer to like changes in the market is key, and this you can only do if you have a very adaptive workforce. And of course, at the end of the day, it's all about money always. So if you have a huge overhead, you will have a very high burn rate. So then one question here that maybe came up for you while listening to me is like, should I train talents or outsource the work? So what's the difference between, or what's the impact of growing a talent in-house compared to hiring outside experts? Let us look a little bit closer into this. So what could be a possible solution for all the challenges I was explaining to you in the last few minutes? So there are a lot of service companies offering scalable service models. There are a lot of freelancers, like all these Gen Z and Gen Alpha people. They also have to work because they have to pay bills at the end of the day. Maybe Gen Alpha still the parents are handling, but the older ones, like they soon have to pay their own bills, so they have to work. So they are accessible through freelancer platforms or like in this gig economy setup. The pro we have there is like they're super specialized and easy to catch for like fast stuff that needs to be done. Or, of course, we have AI solutions such as, for example, Sandra, where you can outsource like standardized tasks. I think this is only the beginning now. This will like be much bigger, I think, already when we stand on this stage next year. So there are different service models you can use as a company to grow and to have your workforce as a service solution instead of workforce you're having on your payroll. So of course there's like hourly rates for freelancers, that's what we all know, it's very learned, everybody knows how this works. There's project-based stuff where you pay more for the project delivery, it's a fixed price, so it's super easy to calculate and it's also super easy for you to plan into your books. Outcome-based, I think this is a very good one because especially for startups or scale-ups, it's kind of safe because you only pay when you actually have the performance. So when you're good with your KPIs and you know exactly what you need or want to reach in the next, like, let's say 6 or 12 months, you can find service providers helping you to reach this. And of course, maybe in the end, it's a little bit more expensive when you both make it, but then it's win-win. If they are not delivering, you didn't lose any money, so it's kind of safe for you. Maybe you lost time, but yeah, you can't have everything. There's also the possibility of managed services where you outsource like full departments of your company, hand it over to someone who is only doing this, for example, in finances, HR, or marketing. Then, of course, also subscription-based stuff for like ongoing services, super easy setup, you know what you get, you know what you need to pay every month, and it's very nice to handle for both sides. So then, let me summarize a little bit the question to hire or not to hire. Let's look at the pros and cons of both sides. So the pros, it's agile and it's flexible. It's very cost efficient because you only pay for what you actually need when you need it. It's very scalable. You are super flexible. This is also, I think, especially for startups, super relevant. You might have now, this is a very busy time of the year, so you might need more than you need in January when everything is down anyway. So you can also adapt the costs to your current needs. Then you have a faster time to market. I think this is also very important. Sometimes to hire someone, especially in a key role, can take months until you find the perfect fit. In the meantime, a service provider could be already up and running and delivering you results while you are still looking for someone to do the job, which could already have been done. It's a lower risk in terms of finances, it's like less long-term committed, and it leaves you the space to focus on your core business. Then the cons. They're a little bit less than the pros, but so it can be that they have a little bit less loyalty to your company. Like, hiring someone is, of course, nice for your team spirit. They're here, they are like driven, they want the company to grow too. With a service provider or a freelancer, and especially like AI has no feelings, as we don't know yet, but as what we know by now, this is, of course, not the case. So it's less loyalty. So maybe this is then like for the whole culture and vibe stuff and values a little bit difficult. It might not be always aligned on values. We will also talk about this a little bit later. So this is also very important when you look for service providers to have a match. I would say on the like high level 3 main values you have as a company, so it makes it easier for the whole collaboration. Then, of course, you have a risk of data exposure, like depending on what part of your company you're outsourcing, you have to share a lot of insights about your company. Of course, there is contracts and data security about it, but some people might feel a bit like hesitant to do that. And it could be that someone is leaving mid-project for a better offer. This is especially with freelancers maybe the problem, but let's be honest, this can also happen with employee. Then my main statement here is like, work smarter, not harder. Also, sometimes it's a little bit for entrepreneurs, and I know how this is too. I mean, I grew the company from 0 to 9 people now too, but don't be too like, yeah, I want them on my team or be too attached to like the company value in terms of how big your team is. So when we walk around and meet people, then usually the third question is like, yeah, how big is your team? I mean, is this really important? Wouldn't not the better question be like, how much revenue are you doing? How does your profitability look like? In which markets are you operating? And is it maybe smarter to do more with less people? So that's the main message I have here. And then of course, you need a team. You can't do this alone. I mean, being an entrepreneur is probably one of the hardest things you can do. So you need strong people around you, but then hire for core functions. Hire the people you really want to have around you to like address this challenge and go through this roller coaster. And they can focus then on really bringing the company further, to solve your main challenge. And then everything that's not super relevant for your core business, outsource to someone who is doing only that the whole day long. So non-core tasks, not like, I mean, in the end, everything is important for the business, but really focus on the key roles for hires. Then let's look a little bit at best practice stuff here to give you very hands-on tips on how to do this. When you walk out here and you say like, oh yeah, let's look for service providers, check those few points. Set a very clear scope. Be very clear on what you need. Like, be more clear than in a job description where everybody says, yeah, we want someone flexible and driven and all that. So be super clear on the scope. What do you actually want out of this relationship, of this engagement? Also, of course, pricing. Be careful. Like, is there like hidden costs? Is it super transparent? Is it not? Are you maybe ending up paying more in the end than what you expected in the beginning? Treat the providers as part of your team. There are super nice ways nowadays with remote stuff. Like, you can also treat the service provider like a team member. Onboard and align with them, and that's what I meant before. Like, not only on the goals maybe, but also on the values. Be clear on what you expect from them, how you want to work, how they work, and if it's not a fit, also on the personal level, drop it. I think that's very important. Of course, do regular quality checks is super important. Like, you're also controlling your employees, so also control the service providers. This could even be an advantage, because sometimes you can push like more pressure towards the service providers and towards an employee. And then, of course, this is my favorite one, track the performance, track the KPIs, and this will make it crystal clear where you stand in your collaboration and what it's actually delivering you. Good. Then let me show you 3 short real-life examples of outsourcing wins, like from huge companies. For example, WhatsApp was from the beginning outsourcing the whole development. So that means they had an external CTO and development team from day one. I mean, I don't have to tell you how big WhatsApp is and like how successful they are. So this was super nice, super early on. I mean, nowadays it's also more common to have an outside development team. This is not breaking news here, but I think it's important to also see this is already a proven model. It's not something we invented like yesterday. Then Get Your Guide. Also, I mean, they had a huge need for customer support because they're operating globally in all the different time zones for people doing stuff 24/7, going onto a sailing trip, going to a safari, whatever. There is a million things that can go wrong when you are traveling. So the need for customer support was huge. So what they did, they outsourced the whole customer service to an external company, like doing the whole thing, like answering phones for people losing their tickets, not finding the entrance or whatever. I mean, you can imagine the problems there. And this is super important, I think this is one of my favorite examples here too. I mean, imagine how many people they would have had to hire to have this 24/7 global support system. And then Walmart, to also show a little bit more traditional company, they outsource their whole accounting for the full company, from like sourcing the retailers. Everything is completely outsourced, and the impact on it was, of course, huge. They had huge accounting teams before, and now outsourcing all of it, and therefore like saving a lot of money. Let's wrap up. So the outsourcing offers, you can access global teams, like global experts in the different fields. You have a scaling solution at hand. You just have to find your right service provider, sign the contract, and get going. And you have lower operational costs overall. So maybe that's the final puzzle piece you were looking for to make your company a success and grow it in the way you want to grow and be there in like 1, 2, 3 years you are actually dreaming of being. Thanks for listening to me. If you want, you can connect to me on LinkedIn. We also have a booth here. It's in Hall 2. It's 155. Please feel free to come by, ask my team members, ask me if you have any questions or want to talk about my topic today. Thanks you.
So, Sandra, thank you so much for this first keynote. First of all, how was it to open the second day of the Startup Nights for you?
Very nice, very nice. I'm super happy that it was quite full. I expected it to be a little bit less full, so yeah, it was super nice.
Cool, good to hear. We received some very interesting questions for you as well. So John, for example, asked, when is it worth the hassle to hire fractional or freelancer salespeople?
Good question. I mean, it's always important to have the context of the company. But in general, I think especially with sales, is super trackable. You see if there is success or not. So I would invite you to really try to look for sales solutions super early, and maybe there work with someone who is really professional on it. So maybe better a service provider than a freelancer, because there you also need more planability. And let's say if a freelancer then find something better in few weeks, if you go with a service provider, it's much more reliable.
All right, and the next one I think is very interesting but also specific. Will it be feasible in the future to attract Generation Alpha and Z employees to work for future shares rather than a salary?
No, I don't think so at all.
And why not?
Honestly, I don't believe in this system too much, because, I mean, to make something out of the shares, you first need a huge profit or you have to sell the company. And be honest, I mean, that's, for some of us it's the case, but not for everybody. So I think shares is not the right thing to motivate the future workforce, especially when we look at the needs of Gen Alpha or Gen Z. They are also not so money-driven than maybe we are, and I'm a millennial. So when I say we, it's maybe around 30 and 30 plus. So I think it's less the money or the future money they might have. It's the instant satisfaction. Mm-hmm. They want to be happy. They don't want to be stressed. They just want to have a nice job.
And just very short, because we still have some time left. At Zealy, you offer CMOs as services, and I was just wondering, what does that look like?
It's a subscription model for marketing. So what we do, we tackle the whole marketing for companies from the strategic level, but also the full execution. So for companies having only limited or almost no marketing resources, we are the perfect fit.
Okay, great. And you're also here having a booth?
Yes.
Perfect. So drop by and say hello to Sandra and her team. Thanks a lot for being here today, and big applause again for Sandra Kobel. Thank you.